Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show, we have reports and tips for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And then we talk with our local DNR fisheries biologist, Max Wolter, about summer fishing and a lot more. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
Save on Tracker boats at Hayward Power Sports. America's #1 selling aluminum fishing boat is Tracker, and the top selling pontoon is Sun Tracker. During the Great American Boat Sale event, claim up to $3,000 in instant savings and a free Bass Pro Shop gift card up to $1,000 with the purchase of a select new model Tracker boat. Plus, get the Tracker Promise, the best factory warranty, and Tracker's no-hassle, no-haggle value pricing coast to coast. See us today at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom-cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're recording this week down at Hayward Bait and Bottle, talking to Jarrett McCarthy. And Jarrett, what do you got for reports out there? We're basically in full-blown summer, it looks like.
It's summer. The weather feels like summer. The sky out there looks like summer. We finally got some steady sunlight out there. It sounds like the fishing's been pretty good out there, John.
Let's start with walleyes. There's still people want to go walleye fishing. What are you hearing? What's your recommendation?
Still walleye to be caught. It kind of seems like they're in the transition from moving out to the deeper flats and still on the weed line. So for guys that are still out looking to do a slip bobber bite with some leeches, they're still there. Other guys that want to get out and do a little bit of trolling, they're there. For guys who are privileged enough to have a live scope, you can go do it anywhere.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking trolling crawler harnesses is always a good summer go-to.
Yeah, absolutely. You cover a lot of water, you find fish. Doesn't even have to be walleyes out there. You can do it for bass, you can do it for bluegills. A whole bunch of different ideas for trolling out there.
How about panfish? I know that's one of your favorites. You like to go after panfish, crappies. Let's start with the crappies.
Yeah, crappies. Crappies have moved out to a little bit deeper water. They're on those deep cribs, those deep weed lines. They're starting to school back up. They kind of had a rough go with the quick spawn out there. We had a really weird spring, but crappie fishing's been pretty good. A lot of guys getting them on plastics, and that's the deal for this time of year. Plastics ahoy.
I don't know if all the fish actually even did spawn. I think it was such a mixed-up mess this spring for everything.
Yeah, I would agree. Yep, we had such a tight window and some weird weather around that spawning time where I'm going to guess probably not all the fish got in there to spawn.
What's some of your favorite go-to presentations for crappies? I know you've been talking a lot about that drop shot stuff.
Yeah, that drop shot stuff. Yeah, you can try running that for crappies, but crappies usually suspend so far in the water column, it's tough to pick a distance for that drop shot. But you like running beetle spins, you like running some plastics on a jig head. If you really need to, you could run a bobber and put a piece of plastic under a bobber just to kind of control how deep that thing is sinking all the time. But just depends on where they are in the water column. Even some crankbaits, some hard baits work really well this time of year.
You were talking about catching bluegills on drop shot.
Yeah, absolutely. This past week, got a couple of lakes with those gills just wrapped up spawning within the last week, so they're kind of adjacent to where they were spawning on, 6 to 8 feet of weeds. And we were throwing some drop shots. We were getting some dandy bluegills. We got some 9.5, some gills that were almost kissing that 10-inch mark, and they were the big males, so they were fired up, ready to eat, and they were fun to fight.
What seems to be the go-to for the crappies and the bluegills? I mean, usually it's plastics or things like gulp.
Yeah, absolutely. Some gulp, those little 1-inch gulp minnows. If you really are tired of picking through those smaller fish, you can upsize those 2 or 3-inch minnows. Crappie's got a big mouth, so he ain't afraid to hit a bigger bait. And bluegills, I really like. We talked about it before. Gulp has a floating trout worm out there that I like to rig wacky style on some of my drop shots, and they work really well out there.
Yeah, it's amazing how big a fish sometimes you catch on the little bitty baits, all the way up to muskies, actually.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about, as far as the other fishing out there, muskies. You heard much on muskies?
Not hearing a whole lot on muskies right now. The water's starting to heat up out there, and that's when a lot of guys take their foot off the gas for muskies. You can still fish for them during those really safe periods, those low light periods, when that sun is starting to lay low a little bit. It's a little easier on the fish, but been seeing some guys getting some nice fish out there.
Yeah, that water temperature is a big thing right now, because I saw the other day I was on the Chippewa flowage, I saw over 80 degrees on the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that sun out there cooking, it doesn't take much.
Yeah, and the fish it's probably not 80 degrees where the fish are, but it's, they're coming up in that water. It's hard on them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice and cool down at the bottom or what have you, but as soon as you start bringing that fish up through the water column or letting them bake in the sun, it takes its toll.
How about pike fishing? Anything going on there?
Pike fishing's always good up here. Just find some weeds right now. If you're looking for some of those bigger pike, they're going to be on those same drop-offs, those same deep flats that the walleye are cruising right now. A lot of those same methods that you're pitching out there for walleyes and bass right now, your plastics, your swim baits, even some of your live baits that you're getting down in there will work really well for pike right now.
And go back to the trolling thing, that's a very good option for trolling for summer pike, the bigger pike.
Absolutely, and while you're trolling for those bigger pike, those walleye aren't shy about eating the bigger bait too. You're multitasking out there.
And bass fishing, that seems to be a real go-to for summer fishing.
It is. Everybody loves bass fish. Sounds like the smallie topwater bite's really getting going right now. The bass are doing some damage on some of those shallower weed flats and up into the reeds or what have you still. But as that water continues to warm up, a lot of those fish will start moving out a little bit or make sure that they're in some cover. But, the bite's really good right now.
You're talking largemouth particularly.
Yeah, largemouth, yep.
Soft plastics are usually a good bet there. I mean, the one number thing, I guess you said it before and I'll say it too, is that basically a wacky rigged worm is probably a go-to bait.
Yeah, it really is. It's a go-to bait, and you're catching a lot of fish on a single bait. You're catching 5-6 fish before you need to switch baits up, and you're not fiddling with an eye crawl or something every cast. And they're really friendly to fish out there for those who haven't done it yet.
Any other option too, I'll say, is just a Senko worm, 5-inch Senko worm rigged on a big EWG hook with no weight, and just fish it slow. You can fish it up high in the water, you can fish it down in the weeds, and just don't be afraid to just drop it and let it sit there for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, because they'll get it off the bottom.
Yep, absolutely. There isn't really a wrong way to work one of those Senkos. Yep.
Talk about smallmouth. Anything there?
Yeah, smallmouth. Starting to see some smallies come onto those main lake rock structures out there. We're starting to see some fish come up on top waters. That's another deal where the drop shot bait really, really shines. Some swim baits really shine, and those crawfish presentations like an Ed rig really work well too.
And if you can get them on the top water, that's the most fun thing there is.
That is a load of fun. They are a different animal when they're coming up on top water, and they'll come up and they'll whack a bait from a ways away. So don't think because you're in 20 feet of water, they're not going to come up and visit you on top.
And down here at the shop, you guys are all geared up for summer fishing?
Absolutely. We've got a lot of stuff in here. I've even heard some of it catches fish.
I guess it probably something would have to catch fish with this much stuff.
Absolutely, yep.
It's not a matter of, if you get skunked or not. It's a matter of whether you run out of time when you're out there.
Absolutely, and there's no shortage of time out there to be had right now.
So many things to try. Thank you, Jarrett.
Thanks, John.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking to our Wisconsin DNR fisheries biologist, Max Wolter, about summer fishing and a lot more. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop for the Hayward area's largest selection of rods, reels, lures, fishing electronics, boating supplies, and they've now expanded their selection of soft plastic bass and walleye baits. No matter what you're fishing for, at Hayward Bait and Bottle, you'll find everything you'll need for a successful season. And while you're there, in their bottle shop, you'll find a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor, too. And also don't forget, now they carry Shoremaster docks, lifts, and accessories at Hayward Bait and Bottle. There's no time like the present to explore Hayward, Wisconsin, one of the Midwest's most popular vacation destinations. With crystal clear lakes for water sports and fishing, miles of trails for riding snowmobiles, ATVs, cross-country skiing, hiking, and mountain biking, this area is buzzing with activity year-round. Combined with charming local shops and a variety of Northwoods dining options, Hayward is certain to offer both adventure and relaxation for everyone. Plan your trip today and find everything you need on the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce website. From events and attractions to local dining, shopping, and lodging, visit haywardareachamber.com and start your next adventure now.
Have some UTV fun in the sun with savings up to $4,000 or financing as low as 0% at Hayward Power Sports. The Polaris All-Out Summer Sales Event is the perfect time to take yours home. Offers vary by model, but a prime example is the 2026 Polaris Ranger XP1000 Northstar with a $3,000 rebate or 1.99% financing for 36 months. This machine is the top of the line with a factory-installed cab system including a tip-out windshield and power front windows. Plus, control your comfort with factory-installed heat and AC. Yes, AC. Choose a machine to fit your needs and the offer that fits your pocketbook. Polaris RZR is a machine for adrenaline junkies to push the limits. Polaris Ranger is the ultimate workhorse for the toughest jobs. And Polaris General is the best of both worlds, built with task-to-trail versatility, ready to work or play. Plus, Hayward Power Sports has a machine that started it all, the legendary Polaris Sportsman ATV. Have fun in the sun with your new Polaris today at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
See dealer for complete program details. Always wear a helmet, never drink and ride.
In the Northwoods, a lake property is more than just a cabin. It's where memories are made. If you're buying lakefront property, you want someone who understands what makes each lake special. And if you're selling, your property deserves more than just a sign in the yard. It deserves its story told. I'm Megz Steinmetz with Real Estate by Megz, a national 30 under 30 realtor, lifelong angler, and a Northwoods lake specialist. Because no two lakes are the same, and neither are the properties. Find me online or on social media, Real Estate by Megz. That's Megz with a Z.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, one of the guys that get on here quite often whenever I get a chance is Wisconsin DNR fisheries biologist Max Wolter. I had a chance to talk to Max the other day down at the ranger station about the summer fishing and a lot more. Max, good to have you on the show here again.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
We're in the summer period here, and we're starting to get bug hatches and all kinds of stuff going on in our lakes. And once we get into basically late June, the whole lake, whole ecosystem is going in full tilt pretty much, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, this is peak, right, as far as water temperatures and aquatic plant growth and all that stuff. And we're past all the spawning windows for basically all the fish, right? You maybe could still find a bluegill on a bed here or there. They're kind of the last ones to go. But everything else is done. Walleye have been done for almost 3 months. Bass are done. So now you're getting into kind of the fish's, summer window where their only responsibility is just feeding and surviving, right? And so this is a good time to go out and fish. You're going to find them in, somewhat predictable summer patterns. They're not pulled up shallow for spawning anymore. So you're going to see a lot of species slide back out deep, but warm water, generally, as long as it's not excessively warm, means pretty active fish and a lot of feeding. The challenge for anglers is it also means there's a lot more food out there, which we've talked about in the past too. You just mentioned bug hatches. They are going to start eating all the little fry from all the spawning that happened this spring. So you got fish that really want to be, opening and closing their mouth and eating stuff. But there's a lot of other things out there to compete with your bait or your presentation.
Well, I think one of the problems, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, with that much forage out there, they're not moving around much to get what they need, and they're not active feeding for only very short windows. So basically, a lot of the time during the day, you should be out there doing some tourist things or doing whatever you want to do, is concentrate on the peak times, whether it's solar times or whether it's the late evening or early morning.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't want to bust the water all day, you can go do some mini golfing or something. That's fine. You can come back and catch some fish. One thing to think about with fish is it's something that biologists call optimal foraging theory. And it gets it right at what you just talked about, which is that a fish doesn't want to be burning energy all day, swimming around like crazy, chasing prey that's, really quick, and that's not very effective, right? You're burning more energy than you're taking in if you're a fish that's not making smart choices. So what a fish wants to do is it wants to be able to post up somewhere where it can ambush prey, small amount of effort to catch a nice amount of prey and get a lot of energy from eating that prey, or it wants to feed at times where it's going to be most effective. That's why walleye, the bite is best in the low light hours, because that's where they have the advantage over their prey. They can see and the prey doesn't know they're coming. So you kind of got to start thinking like a fish. What's the easy way to get prey? Some of them are going to be posted up on deep cribs and just sitting there waiting for some bugs to come off those cribs. Some of them are going to be waiting for those low light hours and ambushing schools of minnows. But it does change throughout the day, and you kind of have to look for those opportunities.
Well, certain fish tend to be more active in lower light periods than other fish. I mean, for instance, crappies versus bluegills. Bluegills will bite all day long, and sometimes in clear water lakes, the crappies, they tend to be more late evening, early morning, or even nocturnal.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. I mean, walleye are obviously the classic example, but you do see that with other species too. Bass, pike. You see some differences among the panfish. That evening time is good for just about everything. A lot of the bugs start to get a little bit more active as you get into the low light hours too, because they're playing the same game, right? Like they have to get places, or come up out of the mud and go do their own, laying eggs and stuff like that. So they're looking for times when they think they can make that journey safely, and the fish are aware of that. So it kind of becomes a cat and mouse game. And then as anglers, we get to be a part of that by knowing, when and where you want to be.
Well, there's a lot of factors in there, too. You mentioned the low light thing before. You can have that situation somewhat during the daytime, too. I mean, you have shaded shorelines. You have some things that shade a lot, whether it's a piece of tree or something out there. Cloud cover and wave action really tends to break up the light.
Yeah, absolutely. I was fishing the other day, and, I was fishing a shoreline. It just looked beautiful, very clear lake, and I spent more time almost fishing with my eyes than anything else because I just wasn't really seeing much. And then I got onto a shaded shoreline. I couldn't see the fish, but I just started casting under the trees in the shadows, and that's where all the bass wanted to be on that particular day. And so that worked out just fine. So you can kind of look for those opportunities, try those different habitat types, mix it up. Wind is another factor. Certainly it can make fishing more difficult, but it can also create opportunities for fish. If there's wind, if there's a little bit of flow, oftentimes that's something fish will really key in on. If you're in a flowage or a riverine system, flow is a huge factor throughout the summer because flow delivers food, right? And trout know this. Trout spend their whole life sitting in flow waiting for bugs to come loose off the rocks or some minnows to kind of try to come down the channel. They always wait for that food to be delivered. But you will see other species doing that too. Certainly walleye, smallmouth and largemouth bass. Pike and muskies like to be a little bit more adjacent to flow. They don't like to sit in it all day and fight it, but they like to be nearby. So that's another thing that people can be looking for.
There's a lot of different factors you can look at in the summertime to kind of maximize your fishing. And species you go after is another one. I mean, panfish seem to be more active. Crappies sometimes get a little harder to find, but your bluegills and northern pike, we got plenty of them. And the bass are usually always catchable in the summer months.
Yeah, right. And, we kind of know from a fish biology standpoint that different species are kind of tuned to different water temperatures as far as when they're the most active. So there are times where it actually starts to get a little too hot for pike, a little too hot for muskies, and they start to get less active. That would be water temperatures that are high 70s into the 80s. Those can be tough times to get those species to bite. Certainly that's way too warm for trout, but we don't see that typically on most of our good trout streams. But species like panfish and bass, especially largemouth bass, they love that warm water. They just get more and more active as the water gets up into the high 70s and even into the 80s. So once it does get to those conditions, you may want to kind of switch up your target a little bit. Maybe you say, okay, we're not going to go for muskies when the water temperature is 79. That looks like a better bass fishing day. It's going to be easier on the fish too, right? Because the reason muskies aren't super active when it gets into those high water temperatures is they're not very comfortable. They're going through a little bit of biological stress, just like you and I would do today, John. If we walked out, it's 91 and humid, and at the end of that day, we don't feel as good as we would if it was a nice 68-degree day with a little bit of cloud cover. So fish go through that too, and then angling, can kind of contribute to that stress if a fish does get caught. So some species can handle that higher water temperature, both in terms of how they handle the stress, and also they're just more active.
Well, a lot of different choices out there in lakes, too, because if we're looking at things in the summertime, unless you're locked in on one lake and your boat's in the lake and that's where you got to stay. I mean, I used to tell people all the time when they had a resort, I'd tell them, now, if they come up with their own boat, don't forget you got wheels underneath that boat, and there may be another lake that might be better, and you can fish here in the evening and go there or whatever. So there are a lot of options out there.
There are, yeah, absolutely. And, there's kind of the, looking for different fishing experiences. You want a clear water lake? We got those. You want a darker water lake? We got those. You want access to some flowing water? Yeah, no problem. And then another choice a lot of people are making is just where can I get away from the crowds, right?
Yep.
Especially you get into this time of year, where there's going to be a lot of other people on the water. Not all of them are anglers. People are enjoying and having fun in different ways. But we do have a lot of what I would just kind of call fishing lakes, right? Where you're not going to see the big boats and the pulling the kids around on tubes. There's some nice quiet spots up in the national forest. You can tuck away into smaller lakes on some of the chains. And you can get to places where, you're not going to have big waves coming at you and all that. So that's another factor that I'm always looking at. And then the other one that I look at in the summer a lot too is just switching from lakes to rivers because nobody's wakeboating on a river.
Yeah, that's true. But just experience of being out there in the seclusion sometimes is the answer. And, we've got so many options in the summer months to go fishing and so many different lakes to try. You can try everything. Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that bring this show to you every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with fisheries biologist Max Wolter. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Big fish stories come to life at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. The world's largest shrine to freshwater anglers boasts a 4.5-story tall walk-through muskie that's a half a city block long. It's like taking a peek into Granddad's old tackle box with thousands of mounted fish, antique outboard motors, and historical sport fishing artifacts. Stop in and take a chance on our 50-50 cash raffle. You could walk away with a pile of cash. See the big ones that didn't get away at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, Highways 27 and B in Hayward. Open daily, including Sundays, through October 31st at 9:30 a.m. Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk we had with Max Wolter. For information, you guys got information online for different lakes and species. There's stuff out there. There's Onyx maps, Onyx Fish. They got stuff. And there's just a whole bunch of different places you can get a lot of information on new places to go fish and try and explore.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to plug my own work here too. But, I write for the Hayward Lakes Outdoor Notebook every week for over a decade now. And one thing I try to do is kind of profile different lakes. So you can go through and you can look at the archives there. And if you want to know, kind of what we're seeing in our surveys for Ghost Lake or Tiger Cat or, whatever, I've got profiles of most of the big ones and just kind of rank everything on like a 0 to 10 scale. So if you're looking for bass, you can kind of say, okay, yeah, that looks like a good place to go and explore and spend a day going for bass or crappies or whatever. But man, there's so much water out here and there's so many different fun ways to fish it. So we're very blessed in that standpoint.
Well, another factor to look at too is that, I think I see where the more pressure that's on a lake, the harder the fish can get to catch too. So if you find a lake where there's not a lot of pressure, chances are you're going to find a little better fishing.
Yes. Yes, this is a I would say almost an undisputed biological fact now, which is that if you're willing to put in a little sweat equity and get yourself into somewhere that other people are not going, you're going to see some fish that are a little bit more aggressive, right? Because they haven't seen as many lures, they haven't had as many other anglers casting at them. Those places still exist around here, which is pretty cool. You got to work, right? And you got to look at the map and you kind of got to say, okay, I think, I want to get into here. Here's how I'm going to do it. Some bushwhacking, some paddling through some stuff to get to something else. Most of these are not accessible by traditional motorboat, I would say. So there is kind of that factor too, that you got to be kind of ready and up for the adventure, but they're out there and it's a lot of fun. My son and I went on a couple this year that paid off and it was great, but yeah, we got some ticks, we got some thorns, we got some scratches and scrapes is getting in there, but if you have a good day of fishing, a lot of that stuff is very forgivable.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine, he goes up and flies in the Canadian waters up there, and he's always telling me how many more walleyes are up there. He catches walleyes. Yeah, what you got it. You don't have maybe so many more walleyes. You just got a bunch of dumb walleyes.
Yep, there's a component of that. Yeah, it's what we call catchability, right? It doesn't mean there's necessarily more, but they're more catchable. So that's a real thing. There's some interesting research out there on that.
What do you think the weather patterns have to do with stuff this summertime here? We have rolling patterns go through. I know Al Linder on our show one time said that you're going to have a 1-2 days, if you're up here for a week, of really good fishing, and a couple days it's so-so, and a couple days it maybe not so good.
Yeah, so I would kind of classify weather patterns in a couple different senses. One is like, how comfortable is the weather pattern for us as anglers, right? If it's really windy, it might be great fishing, but you might not be able to stay out on the water in the spots you want to be at, right? Or it might be pouring rain and you just don't want to be out there, or it might be blazing hot. So there's kind of like the angler component of the weather component, or the weather pattern. Like, do I want to be out there today or not at this time? And then there's kind of, how does the weather actually affect the fish and the fish behavior? And that's always been a more difficult thing to determine. I know the muskie community for a long time has been really keyed in on moon phases and things like that. I think there is some research out there that shows there's something to it. But one of the things we're going to be able to do now with our Spider Lake project, which I've talked about, I think, on your show before, is we have these trackers in these fish now that give us, I think they ping the tag every like 90 seconds or every 3 minutes. So we can really, really look at fish activity across any different weather thing we want to look at, whether that's moon phase, water temperature, wind, whatever. So we're going to learn a lot more, because one thing that happens is once anglers in the angling community have kind of decided that a weather pattern's good, well, what happens? Everybody goes out and fishes during that weather pattern. And if everybody's out fishing, some people are catching fish. And so it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think this research is going to be really interesting to look at it in kind of a highly, scientific and standardized way that takes out some of that human bias.
I know from my experience and some of the other guides and stuff is that sometimes, the major feeding periods of moon phases and stuff are accurate, but weather trumps everything. Weather can change it and kind of blow that all apart.
Sure can. Yep. And just like I said, you might see on, whatever, you follow for different tips on when to fish. But, or maybe you got a kid's soccer game and you don't get to go. Maybe you got, you got a doctor's appointment or something. Or maybe it's just howling wind. So the best time to fish is when you can go fishing. That's always true, right? Just go.
Well, Max, a lot of great information there. I want to thank you for coming on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck to fishing, everybody.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, you can always go to our website at WNOradio.com, and from there you can link through to our podcast. You can also find the show on Spotify and all major podcast channels. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com or the Hayward Area Chamber site at haywardareachamber.com. And lastly, if you'd like more information on hiring a fishing guide when you're up here in the Hayward area, check out our website at WNOradio.com. We've got links to just about all the different guides and a lot of information in there on guides. We're out of time for this week's show, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you. Thanks for listening.
Way up in the Northland where the recreation's great. So sit back, relax, kick off your shoes, sink in your easy chair. Come on along, listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.